What's up, guys? UFC 245 just wrapped up, and it's one of the best cards of the year. Lived up to the hype. Crazy finishes all around the card, and one title changed hands, right? The co-main event, the only challenger of the card won. But we'll start with that main event, man. So Kamaru Usman finishes Colby Covington by TKO 4 minutes and 10 seconds of the 5th round. It's one of the latest stoppages in welterweight history. The fight was a classic. I mean, one of the best fights of the year, easily. No takedowns attempted between two of the best wrestlers in the division, some of the best wrestlers in MMA right now, and just slugged it out. Rarely did the fight even hit the cage, let alone try to hit the ground or anything like that. They both just stuck in the middle of the octagon, landing jabs on each other, a lot of straight right hands from Usman, and a lot of overhand lefts from Colby Covington. Colby eventually started to find that right uppercut that was snapping Usman's head up, stunned him a few times, and the right hook from Colby was also catching Usman, because Usman drops his hands all the time. This is something I said before. Usman, when he's throwing punches, he drops his hands. And there is the opening in the exchanges, and that's what Colby Covington was really finding. I don't know if it was on purpose. I think he was just putting together combinations and just happened to catch Usman as his hands were dropping on the retraction. But those winging punches that Colby was throwing the entire fight, they eventually found their maker. And it's something I say all the time. Inside punches beat looping punches almost every single time, and this is another example of that with the second knockdown. But the first one, it pretty much showed what was going on for the entire fight. Whenever Usman threw the right straight or even a jab, Colby didn't really have head movement except when he's throwing punches, right? When he's throwing his punches, he's moving his head with the overhands with the looping shots, but when his head is still and he has his left hand up to his head, he's not parrying and he's not getting his head off the center line, making those straight shots from Usman land consistently. And the broken jaw in the fight really didn't help with the knockdowns and with the damage, right? It was another straight right, which Usman, I believe, bypassed the jab of Colby Covington, found that right straight perfect angle on the outside and landed straight on the chin while Colby has his mouth open. Man, you gotta keep your mouth closed. It's one of the first things you learn when it comes to striking. I understand Colby Covington's a wrestler, but he's been doing MMA for a pretty long time now, and you gotta keep your mouth closed, man, because this is kind of stuff that happens. You don't tense your jaw up, you don't brace for the punch when your mouth is open. It's very loose and easy to break, but you gotta give it to Colby Covington all the respect. It was a close fight up until that finish, and the guy won the next round, the 4th round, with a broken jaw. I believe he won the 4th round. I think a lot of people would think he won the 4th round because that was the round where he started landing those right uppercuts and those right hooks after Usman was retracting his punches. Respect to Colby Covington and respect to Usman. These guys brought on a classic fight that many of us will probably remember for a long time. And also, the body shots from Usman were working very well. That uppercut to the body on the inside as Colby is waiting for the headshots was perfect. And even the snap kicks to the body were working as well, but they just don't drain Colby because his gas tank is just endless. But one of them did hurt. And here's the thing, a lot of people are saying, the scorecards are crazy. I believe, I checked it on Twitter, I believe one judge gave it 3-1 to Colby Covington, 3-1 to Usman, and then 2-2. I personally couldn't even judge this fight that correctly, especially that first round, very even round, I believe. If I look back, I think Colby won the second, and I believe Usman won the third, and Usman, of course, won the 5th, even if it wasn't a stoppage, right? Even if Colby Covington was able to defend himself, Usman will eventually win that round as well, meaning that he probably won the first round on the scorecards. I can see that. 3-1 for Colby Covington. I don't think it's that crazy. I think people are just jumping the gun really quickly thinking that Colby won the 3rd round. I don't think any of the scorecards have Colby winning the 3rd round. I think they have him winning the 1st round, which is understandable, right? It was a very close round. 2nd and 4th, I think everybody agrees that they went to Colby Covington. 3rd round, everybody agrees they went to Usman. 1st round was very close, and 5th round, Usman won. But if anybody's saying, how crazy the scorecards are, again, it's a very hard fight to score. Very hard fight to score. So much was landing, so many shots were getting thrown, a lot of the punches were glancing, a lot of them were landing clean. I don't know the stats right now, but looking at the fight in real time, it looked like the stats were pretty close, especially for the early rounds. But then there's other people saying that the stoppage was not warranted, right? People think it was a little bit quick. I can see how it was a little quick. I mean, Usman didn't land anything crazy with the ground and pound, and that's the main argument of why you shouldn't have stopped this fight. Maybe something has to land clean before you stop it rather than someone just punching someone's arms until the finish. That is a stance I've been holding for a very long time. I see a lot of stoppages where the ground and pound is really landing on the arms, on the hands, nothing landing clean, and it gets stopped. I think something needs to land clean, right? Just because you see a lot of punches getting landed on the guy's body and on his guard and everything like that doesn't mean they're actually creating damage. It means that they can potentially get put into danger, but it doesn't mean they're actually taking damage. And I just don't know what pushes it to be a stoppage? What pushes it to be a finish? Does it have to be the damage on the ground and pound? Or is it just that they're in so much danger you want to get them out of there? What is the ref really thinking? I just don't know that part. So I don't really know what to say about the stoppage. I can see them stopping it. I can see them not stopping it. But regardless, I believe Usman would have won the fight. Looking at the scorecards, he would have won the fight, even if it went to a decision. Because one judge had it 3-1 for Usman, winning the 5th round, make it 4-1. And one other judge had it 2-2, making the 5th round go to Usman. He wins 3-2. So the scorecards would be a split decision. One will give it 49-46 and then 48-47 for Usman, and the other will give it 48-47 for Colby Covington. Regardless, man, these two guys are right now the best welterweights on the planet. I feel bad for Colby Covington because of the, broken jaw and everything like that. A very simple mistake like that is a big mistake, and it possibly costed him a lot in this fight, possibly. But I think we'll see Colby Covington back. The whole character and everything like that, I just don't care too much about the character. People put a lot into that character and are very emotional to Colby Covington because of that. The guy got $500,000 because of this character, right? Because he changed his personality, persona in the sport. It was pretty much worth it, in my opinion. I mean, anybody would do that, especially knowing his story, how he's almost cut a couple fights ago, and now he fought for the championship, $500,000 as a challenger. That is not the norm. He made the same as a champion. That is something that a lot of challengers, most challengers never get. They never get the same pay as the champion. I mean, we had Rory McDonald before fight Robbie Lawler, and he got like $40,000. He was a challenger. Colby got $500,000 fighting the champion. That's what I'm looking at when I see this character. Yes, it could be fun. Yes, it could be trolling and stuff like that, and it goes with the trends. But when I look at it, I see he's making an opportunity for himself and trying to further his career financially and even save it from getting cut. And he just put on, with Kamaru Usman, one of the best fights I've ever seen in welterweight history. So kudos to both guys. And the interesting is who these guys should be fighting next. With Jorge Masvidal and the money fight that he is, with Leon Edwards trying to fight Tyron Woodley, with Santiago Ponzinibbio still infected, he needs to get quarantined, with possibly Conor McGregor in the division, and you know how Conor gets title shots. He can fight a broomstick and you'll get a title shot eventually, right? Hard to say. It's hard to say who would get the title shot. I want to see Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal deserves a title shot. He warrants it, merits it, and he's the money fight. He's the biggest star in this division right now before Conor fights again here. And I know he wants a Nick Diaz fight, and they would absolutely make that fight because it's a big money fight, but I want to see him fight Kamaru Usman. And who do I have winning that fight right now? I actually have Usman winning that fight. I think his wrestling is just a little too strong. And he showed in this fight with Colby Covington, his striking has greatly improved. His form and his punches have greatly improved. What Daniel Cormier was saying out there that Usman was the better striker. Yes, I believe this proved that he has developed to be a better striker than Colby Covington, but it's more on the form of his punches. His form on his punches was the thing that decided that. So even on the feet with Jorge Masvidal, he doesn't want to stay there too long. He'll get put out eventually, and Jorge's way too slick for even those straight punches from Kamaru Usman. Usman drops his hands. Remember that. After he throws punches, he drops his hands, especially if he doesn't have the wrestling to back it up. He's very vulnerable. But against Jorge Masvidal, he's going to shoot in after those punches, drive it to the ground. He's a lot stronger than Damian Maia, I believe. So it'd be a tough fight for Jorge Masvidal, but that's the fight I want to see next. And as for Colby Covington, if Tyron Woodley versus Leon Edwards doesn't get made, possibly one of those two could fight Colby Covington, because it looks like Tyron Woodley doesn't want to fight Leon Edwards in London. And if that's just not going to happen, either of those guys would be perfect. Of course, Tyron Woodley versus Colby Covington, because of the history they have with each other, that would make the most sense, right? So Colby versus Tyron Woodley if his fight with Leon Edwards doesn't get made. And then we go to the co-main event. Alexander Volkanovski defeats the GOAT, Max Holloway, by decision. I believe it was 150-45, and weren't the other ones 48-47 or something like that? But just a complete shutout. Masterclass performance from Volkanovski, shutting down Max Holloway. This is exactly what I was saying in my prediction video that someone has to do to Max Holloway. I've been saying this for a very long time. Max Holloway relies on momentum. You got to cut off that momentum every single time he comes in on you. That's what Volkanovski was doing. He was rolling in with a right overhand or just rolling as Max was coming in on him and then landing a big left hook over the top. Every single time it was getting close or it landed. And it stopped Max Holloway's assault. That's why you didn't see the output. That's why you didn't see the combinations, because he couldn't get started. Volkanovski was cutting him off every time. Besides, I believe, was in the fourth round where Holloway just started letting off a little bit more. And you heard the commentator, I'm forgetting his name for some reason, John Anik. He was asking why we're not seeing Max Holloway's volume. And it's because of that. Max Holloway's volume was so low because he was only able to land like one or two punches inside those exchanges and gets cut off, and then he has to retreat every time. So there was no output. And it just allowed Volkanovski to let off. And it was a masterclass performance. I mean, his fight IQ is equal to his war-hungry style. He loves the war, but he's extremely intelligent. And that's extremely dangerous for anybody to fight Volkanovski, because he will come in after you, trash talk you while he's fighting you, throw blows with you, and he's still shutting your game down. Technically, Max Holloway was on the outside because he started to change his style in the second round. End of the first into the second round, he started to be a little bit longer and fighting from the outside. Those leg kicks were getting slammed on his legs, and now he had to change his stance. Now Holloway can't even switch stances in his exchanges, in his combinations. He has to stick to southpaw because his left leg is torn apart. It's an absolute huge weakness Max Holloway has. He just doesn't check leg kicks. And Volkanovski is a unit of a man. He's a human Australian tank, and he's slamming those legs right into yours, and you'll never win that collision. Insane performance from Volkanovski. Of course, deserves to be the champion. And now, for the first time, we have two champions from the Oceania region, from New Zealand or Australia, at the same time. Not too long ago, MMA fans and even the brass were saying that Australians are just held back, right? They're just too far behind from Americans, from Europeans when it comes to MMA. And now we have two champions from that region. Crazy. We have 3 champions overall since Robert Whittaker became the first to win a belt. Now we have Volkanovski and we have Israel Adesanya. That is crazy. And since Volkanovski beat Max Holloway, is Volkanovski now the GOAT 145-pounder? I mean, that talk was just crazy all night, man. It was, I understand once or twice, but they just keep banging on the fans' head that Max Holloway is the greatest of all time. People just aren't going to take that talk serious anymore. Jose Aldo is the greatest 145-pounder of all time. I made a video about this. Until someone meets his record, look how hard it is. Max Holloway just lost, his 3rd or 4th title defense here? Try going 9 title defenses. That's how hard it is. That's why Jose Aldo is the greatest of all time. Nobody can even get half of that in this division yet. We'll see how Volkanovski proves himself. We'll see where he can reach in this status as the champion and what contenders is he going to beat. But that's the other thing coming to this. He's not the greatest of all time. I'm just joking about that. Who is next for these two? So as for Alexander Volkanovski, people are saying rematch with Max Holloway. I can see that. Max Holloway had a couple defenses and he's a great featherweight. The fight wasn't really that close, but it was a decision loss, and Holloway could probably make some adjustments, and I believe the UFC really likes him. But if it's not going to be Max Holloway, I believe if Korean Zombie beats Frankie Edgar, he can get the title shot. I see people saying that Zabit Magomedsharipov versus Alexander Volkanovski would be a fun one. I don't think that yet. I think Zabit needs one more fight. And there is also Yair Rodriguez. So I believe Yair or Korean Zombie if Holloway doesn't get the rematch. And the fight I want to see the most out of all these, I would love to see Korean Zombie go to war with Volkanovski. I mean, even more than Max Holloway. I'd rather see Korean Zombie versus Volkanovski than any other fight. That thing would be an absolute war with two guys that just don't back down from each other. Very forward pressuring style. And will just trade with each other technically. Madness, I'll love that fight. And as for Max Holloway, again, the rematch can be warranted, but if he's not going to get the rematch, let's have him fight Zabit Magomedsharipov. There is also Yair Rodriguez, so one of those two would be an excellent fight for Max Holloway. The one I want to see, of course, is Zabit versus Holloway. That would be amazing. And then we go to the third title fight. Amanda Nunes defeats Germaine de Randamie by 49-44, 49-45, and then 49-46. Some people may have been shocked how this fight played out. To more people who were in the know about Germaine de Randamie, some people didn't know that Germaine would have the better strike. She would have the advantage in the stand-up, which will force Amanda Nunes to go the wrestling route. After the first round, that's pretty much how the fight went. Germaine started stunning Amanda Nunes in the second round because Nunes looked like she was fatiguing a bit. Seeing how some of the slow striking from JDR was getting through on Nunes, I mean, that question mark kick in the second round was extremely slow. And I was very surprised to see Nunes just get caught by it. Maybe glancing, but that's all it needs to knock you out. And that just showed to me Nunes is fatiguing. I mean, she has fought people like Shevchenko and evaded her strikes very well because she didn't fatigue so much in that fight. Here, she tried to finish Germaine in the first round with the ground and pound, and I believe gassed her out a bit, underestimating Germaine's ground and pound defense. Even though Germaine has some of the worst takedown defense I've ever seen in my life. I mean, absolutely no resistance or strength to even stop anything Amanda Nunes tried. Nunes isn't the most powerful takedown artist, but she looked like GSP out there or something against Germaine. She's very good at stopping the striking, shutting the opponent down, holding them down, and not getting anything off. A lot of the ground and pound shots after that first round, when you look at the other ground exchanges, Germaine was blocking a lot of those. The up kicks were getting scary. She actually rocked Nunes with one of them. That's the first time I've seen Nunes rocked in a long time. I mean, legs weren't even working for a second. And it's because exactly how Daniel Cormier was explaining it, You want to go in with your hips first before your head. When you're leaning in, your head is a target. When you're going in with your hips, the opponent has to swing upward. When the opponent does that, you can stack on top of them and turn them over and get into a better position. Diving in is extremely dangerous. I believe Jacare Souza got knocked out by Gegard Mousasi because something crazy like that. But on the feet, you know, in that first round, Nunes has some scary power, man. Even though her punches were getting blocked, Germaine was like wobbling, like a car was running into her. But when that power started to fade more, Germaine was really getting the better of the striking. She was a lot more technical, and as I said before in my prediction video, she was using her distance very well on the defense. On the offense, she was lunging too much, and another thing I was saying was Germaine has to fight this fight like she's going to win a decision. She can't go and try to finish Nunes because she'll open herself up to takedowns. That's exactly what happens here. Way overextending with the right straight, even a jab, and then the double leg just got through, and it wasn't a powerful exploding double leg like a GSP, still getting taken down easily. I've never seen someone this kind of takedown defense since Carlos Condit. It's pretty frustrating to watch, especially with years of advancement, years of development in that area. Germaine doesn't have to work on her striking too much. She is probably the best striker, not pound for pound, but just the striker most just cannot handle than anybody else. Right, even if she goes and fights Valentina Shevchenko, I believe she'll give Shevchenko a lot of problems because of her size. Not technically, but because, you know, putting her size and technique and skill, very hard to beat her for anybody. Very hard on the feet. She doesn't have to work on that too much. She has to work on her wrestling and her grappling and her ability to scramble. And it looked like she did not make any adjustments in that area from the first fight. The first fight was very similar. She got taken down easily and eventually TKO'd. At least she's better with positioning and not allowing the opponent to advance on her through that. And she almost got a triangle choke. But there were moments where Amanda Nunes was literally lingering and sticking her arm, left arm on the inside. If Germaine had the hips and the experience or the training to go for arm bars at a whim, she could have gotten an arm bar on Amanda Nunes. I mean, it was in there for a very long time and Nunes was sitting on her feet. That is very bad. That's an extremely vulnerable position. It is something very similar to why Chael Sonnen got triangled by Anderson Silva. That's what Amanda Nunes was doing as she was fatiguing. And Germaine really wasn't getting that tired. She was a little bit tired because she was getting punched and on the bottom for a very long time, but she had a lot of opportunities. And if she made the kind of adjustments that she said she was going to make for this fight, I believe she could have possibly gotten a win or made it a lot more competitive. But Nunes just shows she's still the best in the world. And who these two should be fighting next? I guess let's do Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana, or you can do her versus Aspen Ladd. The only two fights that make any sort of sense at this point. Irene Aldana just beat Caitlin Vieira, who was the number 2 ranked, so I believe Aldana is going to be top 5. Aspen Ladd's number 3. Both of them make sense. Who I want to see more? I believe Aldana is more dangerous, but Aspen Ladd has that dog in her and also the grappling experience to just not get overwhelmed. But again, she's going to get dropped on the feet. She's very vulnerable on the feet. She has power, but defensively just holes all over the place. Aldana's more molded correctly on the feet, but her ground game is just not on that same level. So I don't see either of them being Amanda Nunes, but one of them has to fight her, right? And as for Germaine de Randamie, maybe a rematch with Holly Holm, why not? There's a lot of controversy of their first fight. And then here we go, the debate. Marlon Moraes defeats Jose Aldo by split decision. Before I get into the scorecards and who won and who lost, all that sort of stuff, the fight answered a lot of questions regarding Jose Aldo at 135. Good chin, took one of the hardest punchers in this division shots, ate all of them and just kept going unaffected. Good cardio for 3 rounds, and he looked quick. So all the attributes were intact, which means that he could fight 135 and be healthy. And the question also about how does Jose Aldo handle kickers? Right, Marlon Moraes landed a head kick in the beginning of the fight. The first thing thrown in the fight was a switch kick, that legendary switch kick from Marlon Moraes. Catches Jose Aldo. He catches everybody with that thing, man. But Aldo's the only one to live through it. And the head kicks were getting close because Aldo was defending them like a boxer. He was keeping one hand up. The hand is not covering the entire head. It's not all the way elevated to stop a kick even from connecting to the temple, top of the head, something like that. And that's the first one that landed. A couple more almost got through the guard too, so it was pretty scary. But the fight started playing to Jose Aldo's favor when the second round came in. The first round, Marlon Moraes was very calm, extremely calm. Jose Aldo was very frantic, and Marlon Moraes was just connecting with the hooks as Jose Aldo was making his way in, connected with a few good leg kicks, some body kicks, throw some head kicks in there, but then Jose Aldo started to adapt that Cejudo pressure. Not the same kind, Cejudo did it much better than Jose Aldo did, much more effective, but he started to march down Marlon Moraes and make him uncomfortable to the point where now the calm Marlon Moraes, who was just picking his shots, is trying to break the pressure with power punching and just winging something out there to get Jose Aldo off him. But Aldo was always on him. So the second round went to Jose Aldo. I believe the first round, you can give it to Marlon Moraes, right? The first head kick landed some good punches here and there. And Jose Aldo started landing some good jabs. He landed some really good straight right hand counters. Very, very good boxing. But again, like no leg kicks. One leg kick, if I recall, landed in the entire fight from Jose Aldo. And looking how Marlon Moraes was lunging in with those straight shots throughout the entire fight, actually, it can make those leg kicks unnecessary. Because if you're going to throw them and the opponent's lunging in over the top, you will get caught. And I believe that's the time Jose Aldo actually got caught, was when he threw that right kick to the leg and Marlon Moraes lunged with the right straight over the top and caught him. The third round was pretty close as well, where Moraes connected early on with those two jabs that forced Jose Aldo backwards. They connected very clean. A good left hook in there. I think a lunging right straight in there. Jose Aldo landed more, but not really significant shots at all. So it was a decent fight, but the judging is what's causing this controversy. Who won? Marlon Moraes or Jose Aldo? I personally had Marlon Moraes winning. Looking at the criteria, a lot of people just don't look at it. People just go by their own criteria still today. Whatever, if you're not a judge, you can do that. But when I look at the criteria, which is something I don't agree with, I would think Marlon Moraes won. I can see it as a draw because that first round, even the third round were close. And you can make one of those a draw round. But here's the thing, I see a lot of arguments that Jose Aldo won because he had octagon control. Octagon control, with the way the fight went, octagon control does not even count. You do not even score it. It does not exist because there's damage landing. They go by a system when they go from effective striking and grappling. If there's none of that, absolutely none of that, no effective striking and no effective grappling, you go to the next thing, right? If there's none of that, you go to the next thing. If there's none of that, absolutely none of that, you go to the next thing. And octagon control is one of the last things you look at. And there was damage in every single round. Because there is damage in every single round, you cannot even go to octagon control. You gotta look at the damage. Now you score the fight on damage. Only, nothing else. Octagon control, aggression, pressure, volume, whatever it is, you don't look at any of that. You look at who landed the damage. It went to Marlon Moraes. He landed the bigger shots in the first round and the bigger shots in the third round. That's how you score for Marlon Moraes. It's very straightforward. So in that case, when you look at those scorecards, you would have to kind of agree with Marlon Moraes winning. But a lot of people are still stuck on the old rules, the old way to judge. If you go by old rules, Jose Aldo won this fight. If you go by new rules, you can have Marlon Moraes winning this fight. So that's pretty much how I look at it, looking at the scorecards. I've been debating this whole judging thing for a long time, and Big John McCarthy, I believe, made it clear on how you score fights. And it is pretty straightforward, to be honest. And who these guys should be fighting next? So Marlon Moraes is the number one contender. Jose Aldo just fought the number one contender and had a very even fight with him. I personally would like to see Moraes versus Jan. That would be an excellent fight. Power punchers, great boxers, the kicks from Moraes, the grappling from Jan. It could be very interesting to watch. And the winner of that should absolutely get a title shot. As for Jose Aldo, Aldo versus Aljamain Sterling would be excellent. Or Aldo versus Corey Sandhagen if Edgar's not going to fight Sandhagen. Either of those would be excellent. Sandhagen versus Aldo would be very tough for Aldo. If I was in Aldo's camp, I'd go towards the Sterling fight because that would be a lot easier. I would heavily favor Aldo to win that. But Sandhagen's a different beast with a style that gives a style like Aldo fits. And then we go to Petr Yan defeating Uriah Faber by knockout 43 seconds of the third round. The fight was actually pretty competitive for the first round. Faber was doing very well, a lot better than I expected. He was trying to land that faked up, come up with the knee as Yan follows the head movement, right? Lowers his levels and falls into the knee. One of them landed. The rest just did not get close. Jan is not going to fall for the same trick twice. And Faber was moving pretty well, but he was also getting pretty antsy. It looked like he was a little bit uncomfortable with Jan's pressure. And the way Jan was just walking him down confidently. But Jan was just calculating and timing Uriah Faber as the fight was going on. He got stronger, better timing, more dangerous as the fight was playing out. He started to land big shots off the clinch, which is actually something Uriah Faber does extremely well. Right, he was beating Faber at those exchanges, landing elbows, landing punches off the clinch. I'm surprised he didn't go for many leg kicks because that is a huge weakness of Uriah Faber, but started to box him up a bit and eventually landed that 1-2 switch in 2, right? That jab straight, switch to southpaw, straight left. And that was right after they both taunted each other. Faber, I think, got locked into that a little too long, caught with the 1-2, tried to lean back after the first two. Jan follows in with a left cross and just puts down Faber, and everything went downhill after that. Tried to stand up, clinch up with Jan, and got caught by a nasty elbow off the clinch again. I don't know what these clinch breaking strikes that Jan is drilling in his training camp, but they are working, man. He is so dangerous off the clinch. That is very impressive. Almost stopped the fight, looked like, with the doctor, and then the fight just started playing out, and another clinch, head kick off of it. Very difficult to do. So the first knockdown was what started everything, and Faber just not the same after that. So it was an excellent performance by Petr-Yan. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Everybody pronounces it differently. It was first Petr-Yan, then it was Petr-Yan. Tonight I even heard Pelter-Yan. I heard Petr-Yan. Like, whatever his name is, we'll just call him No Mercy, right? Because that's what he showed tonight. Gave Uriah Faber no respect in there. And who he should be fighting next, like I said before, Marlon Moraes should be the next fight for him. That would be an excellent one. And whenever that gets a title shot, as for Uriah Faber, I could see retirement. But if he's not going to retire, John Dodson would be fun, right? John Dodson's another vet in the game. Some people are going to yell out, Jose Aldo. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Uriah Faber get mauled out there. And then we go to, I believe it's Jeff Neal. Some people say Geoff Neal. I'm just calling him Jeff Neal. Defeating Mike Perry by knockout 1 minute and 30 seconds of the first round. The first guy to knock out Mike Perry in the UFC. And he does it in one round. Left high kick. Starts it all off. Right, Mike Perry extended on the inside with a jab, having the short reach. It was able to allow Neal to time in that left high kick. He timed it so perfectly, man. I mean, I'm saying it like as if, Jeff Neal had it in the bag. Do you know how difficult that is to do, to time a power left high kick, countering someone's jab as they're making their way in? It wasn't even like a super extending jab. It was just a normal jab, step and jab. Very hard thing to do. That starts it all off, and Jeff Neal tried to find another one. He was very calculated, very cerebral, but also savage with the combinations. I mean, he started letting his hands go against the cage. Perry pushed him off, I believe, and then Jeff Neal just timed and targeted that big left straight on the inside, off of that angle, and right on the jaw, and finished off Mike Perry. That just showed Jeff Neal's on another level. He doesn't belong fighting these guys anymore. He's on a 5-win streak, one of the longest in this division. He needs a ranked opponent. He doesn't need these guys anymore. And a fight I would love to see with him is against Robbie Lawler. I would love to see that. It's the new dog versus the old dog, but it's going to be an absolute war. Robbie Lawler's a better striker than Mike Perry. He has a chin. He has heart, he has cardio, he can go all day. He has the experience as well. And that should be able to close the gap a bit with the explosion and the athleticism of Jeff Neal. The new age attributes. I would love to see that fight. And as for Mike Perry, Perry's like the kind of guy that we just want him to be really elite. We want him to see him up there. We want to see him just keep winning. But for whatever reason, it's just he's not clicking. He's not hitting that level. But a lot of people can see the potential. It might be mentally. They just can't cross into a cerebral fighter. But this is his second loss in a row. And I think I agree that Mike Perry won his last fight against Vicente Luque. But that just shows Mike Perry can be in the rankings. He can be a top 15 fighter. You just got to change a few things, man. Jeff Neal is a hard fight for him. I'm not going to lie. No matter what he did, no matter what changes he made, Jeff Neal is dangerous, man. He's really hard to compete with. And he did beat Alex Oliveira, which is a good win, So he can compete with these guys. He's just got to make some changes. And who would I like to see him fight? Personally, I'd like to see a rematch of Vicente Luque. I think that fight probably should get put together again. I love that fight. It was a good fight. And don't forget, man, a lot of people forgot that Mike Perry gave Santiago Ponzinibbio some problems. And that's something nobody else does. Nobody gives Santiago Ponzinibbio problems these days. Mike Perry was like the last guy that did it. And I did see the amazing left hook from Arena Aldana, one of the biggest left hooks in women's MMA I've ever seen. She deserves to be in line for a title shot. The Matt Brown ground and pound is still alive. I mean, those elbows are as sharp as ever. Sean O'Malley's brother, Ben Askren's son, Chase Hooper, gets the good ground and pound TKO over Daniel Tamer, almost getting caught with a guillotine. I mean, it was just an overall great card, man. And I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I did get suspended for a week, and coming back and watching this card, and it just felt really good. Now, I'm going to have my breakdowns next. I might have one on the main event and maybe one on the co-main event, possibly on the Jeff Neal, Mike Perry one. We'll see. Those should be coming out tomorrow or today, depending what time zone you're in. One of them should be coming out Sunday, and maybe the next should be Monday and Tuesday or something like that. So be looking for those. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.